What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and yes, I am wearing the same shirt that I wore in my I'm back video that I posted last week. It's not because I don't do laundry, okay? It's because I actually am filming this video right after filming that video, but I'm just uploading this video on a later date, so that's why I do my laundry. I'm not a gross person. And I am uploading this video on June 22nd, which is the 2-year anniversary of my YouTube channel. Yes, June 22nd is this YouTube channel's birthday. It's not my birthday, obviously. Mine is March 22nd. Oh, that's funny. Oh, I didn't even see the connection there, but June 22nd is the birthday of the YouTube channel, and I figured, what should I do for my 2-year anniversary? And I was like, I am going to do a Blu Ray collection because this is a movie film channel thing, and you know, by the end of every year, I will have bought a lot more movies. And so I thought every year on my channel anniversary, I'm just gonna do another Blu Ray collection video because that collection is just gonna keep on growing and growing. Now, this might be a very long video because I do have a lot of movies. My collection is by no means as big as some other YouTubers on the platform. Still, though, I'm not going to be able to tell a story for every single one of these movies. I'll at least try to tell a very brief one for every single one of them, but for the sake of my camera's battery life and my computer's battery life, I cannot, talk about each of these movies for 10 minutes. So, without further ado, let's start going through this collection, and I will have you know, because I am a massive nerd, my Blu-ray collection is in alphabetical order, and you will notice that as I'm holding them up. It'll go from A to Z perfectly, because I am a perfect human being. I have no flaws. You can ask every single person I've ever met in my life, and they will tell you that I am a flawless person. I just got really depressed. Alright, here we go. My Blu-ray collection, starting now. Ad Astra, a movie that critics really dug and audiences weren't as big on. It is a slow burn, but I ended up really loving this movie. It kinda has 2001 A Space Odyssey vibes mixed with what Nolan did with Interstellar, and I think Brad Pitt is just so good in this movie. I know, some things have been going around about Brad Pitt recently, but we're talking about the art, not the artist. Amazing performance in this movie, and I just think it's a really amazing film. I rewatched it recently, and I think it's very powerful, very impactful, and I definitely encourage you to watch it. The Alfred Hitchcock Essentials Collection, which includes Rear Window, Vertigo, North by Northwest, Psycho, and The Birds, which also just so happened to be my top 5 Alfred Hitchcock movies. I love Alfred Hitchcock. He is known as the king of suspense, and all of these movies are classics, and I love all of them. I love some of them more than others. I'm gonna say that Rear Window, Psycho, and North by Northwest are like my top 3 Hitchcock films. I can't put them in a specific order. I just love them all so much. But amazing films from an amazing director. Oh boy, it's time for the unpopular stuff. Don't immediately click off the video. Give me time to explain myself. I like this movie. Okay, I know you want to hate comment. Please don't hate comment. I'm not looking for the hate comments right now. I really like Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. Yell, scream at me, get it all out. Alright. He is a great actor, and I really dug his portrayal of Peter Parker in this movie. I think people forgot that Tobey Maguire's performance of Peter Parker, that is not the only kind of Peter Parker that we've ever had in the comics. The most well-known Peter Parker is the really, nerdy, shy kid who has trouble talking to MJ or Gwen, depending on which universe you're talking about. But there's also comics where Peter is a very, confident teenager, almost to a fault sometimes. And I think that makes for a very compelling story because, yeah, for a good portion of this movie, he's kind of a punk. He's kind of mean, disrespectful. And that's more realistic to me because he is a teenager who has just gained abilities that a lot of people would give so much to have. and he's a teenager, so he's not always going to behave responsibly. I think it's a very underrated film, and the chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone is just great. I mean, they were dating in real life, so that probably helped. However, the next film, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, this movie sucks. I personally feel that this movie is terrible, but it's a guilty pleasure for me. I find this movie entertainingly bad, but there still are some good things in it. The chemistry between Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone is still there. Some of the action is epic. Some of the action scenes look very, very good. And this is also one of my favorite Spider-Man suits ever. The movie sucks, but the suit in this movie, I really, really dig it. So yeah, terrible movie, but a guilty pleasure for me. It's so bad that it's good, basically. Oh, and also, no spoilers if you haven't seen it, but like, the thing with Gwen in the third act, that got me the first time I watched it. I thought that that was a very well done scene, and you really felt the impact of that event. So, yeah. Terrible movie, but it has some great moments. Next up, we have Arrival from the masterful, masterful director Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve and Damien Chazelle are like my two favorite modern-day directors right now, who are like, you know, still newer-ish to the industry. Every single film that Denis Villeneuve has made is a masterpiece, in my opinion. Incendie, Sicario, Enemy, Prisoners, Arrival, Blade Runner 2049. The dude is a beast. All of his movies are masterpieces to me. I love all of them. And I'm so excited for Dune. Oh my gosh, I cannot wait for Dune. Arrival, as of right now, Arrival and Blade Runner 2049, both directed by Denis Villeneuve, are my two favorite sci-fi movies of all time. This movie has one of the most emotionally impactful punches of any sci-fi film that I've ever seen, and Amy Adams is just incredible in it. Moving into the B's, we have The Breakfast Club. Classic John Hughes film. I am going to start moving a little faster with this. I love the performances of everyone in here, and I know you're wondering because this movie is all about, like, this movie relates to every single type of teenager, so which of these types of teenagers am I? I'm actually going to say I'm a combination of three of them. I'm going to say I'm a combination, and I don't remember all their names. So I'm a combination of, I'm going to call them by their stereotypes. I'm a combination of basket case, criminal, and a smart nerd guy. Make of that what you will. Great movie. Next up, we have one of the best television shows ever made, the complete show of Breaking Bad. Yes, I know I only reviewed the first 3 seasons. I am going to review seasons 4 and 5. I don't know when. There's a lot of things that I need to review right now. I have a lot of things on my schedule, but I will, at some point, definitely down the road, review the last 2 seasons of the show. I have seen the whole show. This show is incredible. It's a perfect show in my mind, and Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul are two of the best actors alive. Brightburn. This film was also kind of a flop. People didn't really like this movie, but I was pulling for this movie. When I sat down and watched it, I wanted to love it. And I don't love it, but I really like this movie. I think it's a really darn good horror film. And obviously, you know, I love the twist of the Superman story. You know, it's like, okay, what if everything with Superman happened, but instead of growing up and deciding to use his powers for good, he decided to use them for evil and kill people. And it made for a really good, brutal horror film. There are some really, really gory kills in this movie, and it's just a ton of fun. And I love the ending of this film. Not like the very, very ending, but, and I don't want to spoil it, but that final scene with Elizabeth Banks and Brightburn, you know what I'm talking about? I love that. It is so chilling and haunting, and I love the score in it. Really underrated movie, in my opinion. Cloverfield, also a very underrated film in my mind. This is one of my favorite found footage films of all time. It feels so in the moment, but the character work is actually very well done. Seriously, if you watch this film, and you didn't like it the first time, go back and rewatch it. Listen to what the characters are saying. analyze it from like a filmmaking perspective, and like a directorial perspective and a character perspective, I think you might end up actually loving it. Collateral, my favorite Tom Cruise performance of all time, and that's because this is the one Tom Cruise performance that he has done where I really don't quite see Tom Cruise. He really disappeared into this character, but not to be overlooked is Jamie Foxx. He was nominated for Best Supporting Actor in this movie, and it is well deserved. And this film is so surprisingly emotionally powerful to me. Like, the use of the song Shadow on the Sun by Audioslave is perfect. This movie asks some really philosophical questions, and you guys know I love that kind of stuff. I'm a very deep thinker. Great film. Next up, we have Crawl, a very, underrated horror film. Take that with a grain of salt. I just think it's a ton of fun, and I think Kaya Scodelario really carries this movie. She is so good. And this film also, like Brightburn, has some pretty messed up kills, and it makes for an enjoyable horror film. Alright, we got Creed. Creed. This is my favorite film in the Rocky franchise. The original Rocky is a classic, obviously, but Michael B. Jordan's performance in this movie is so real and powerful, and I just ate it up. This film is just so good, and there's just something about it. Like, you just say that title, Creed. Like, it's just, I love it. And the training montage in this movie, every Rocky film has a training montage. The training montage in this film was so well done. I'm pretty sure it was done all in one take, if I remember it correctly. And, just great stuff. And, but still, Sylvester Stallone, he still has it, man. Like, he gives a good performance in this movie, and I need to see Creed 2. And now we have the pinnacle of all comic book movies, Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. Though I will be honest, Dark Knight Rises kinda disappointing, but I still really like it. Batman Begins and The Dark Knight are two of my favorite comic book films of all time, though, and The Dark Knight is my favorite of the trilogy, but I don't think that's gonna surprise anyone. I don't really have to say much. People know how good these movies are. Great trilogy. Deepwater Horizon, a chilling true story that actually happened off the coast of Alabama. I think it was off the coast of Mobile. It's just a very well-made film, and it stars Mark Wahlberg, and just, it's so gritty and grounded, and I'm glad that they went, oh crap, I was gonna say I'm glad that they went for the R rating, but it's not, it's PG-13. One of the most brutal PG-13s I've ever seen. Really good true story disaster film. And we have Do the Right Thing. I want to thank Lightning Strike Studios, a YouTuber who I have collabed with a couple times in the past, for sending me this. He sent me this for my birthday, which really meant a lot. Thanks, man. I did watch it. Really good movie, and I don't know why people don't talk about it more. It's directed by Spike Lee. Yeah, it's directed by Spike Lee. People know who Spike Lee is. Go back and watch this film. It's surprisingly relevant. Next up, we have Ex Machina. Remember how earlier when I said... There we go. Remember how earlier when I said that Arrival and Blade Runner 2049 were my two favorite sci-fi films of all time? That's still true, but I'm throwing Ex Machina in there. Ex Machina, Blade Runner 2049, and Arrival are my top 3 sci-fi movies of all time. I watched this movie for the first time recently, and it just absolutely blew me away. I love A24. Yes, they've made some stinkers, but more often than not, I think they make actually some pretty great movies. The Lighthouse was incredible, and we have The Witch and Hereditary. Like, they're really knocking it out of the park. And I loved this film. I loved its sort of twist on what these types of movies tend to do in regards to, like, what side of the perspective... I'm trying so hard not to give away the twist. Which side of the perspective should you be focusing more on? I'll word it like that. Incredible film, and I'm not going to tell you what I would grade this because I definitely do want to review it one day. And we have First Man, directed by Damien Chazelle, who also directed 2 other movies that we are going to be talking about in this video. This is the true story of Neil Armstrong, really powerful movie, and Ryan Gosling, of course, gives a great performance. Next up, we have another guilty pleasure, The Greatest Showman. This movie sucks. See, I didn't even give you time to even think that I had bad taste in movies. Then again, I don't really believe in good taste and bad taste. I just think people like what they like, and they should be allowed to like what they like, and they shouldn't go to the internet to form opinions that aren't even their own. Speaking of which, why are you all watching this video? This movie sucks, okay? I know it's bad, but Hugh Jackman's charm, Zac Efron's charm, and Zendaya, you guys know I like Zendaya. Everyone is just like, everyone's doing a really good job in the movie, and I think the music is great. Michelle Williams is also in this too. The music is great. It's award-winning music. It's great music. And they also did a reimagined album where they had a lot more, like, well-known artists come and record their own versions of the songs. I really like the music in this movie. The Other Side, I think, is my favorite song in it. Bad movie, great soundtrack. Next up, we have The Green Mile. I actually have yet to watch this movie in full. I've seen most of it, but I saw it at Best Buy when I was there, you know, purchasing a bunch of these movies, and I was like, I gotta own that. It's The Green Mile. It's a classic. I have to own it. I am going to be watching this movie in full soon. And we have the horror classic Gremlins on 4K. I'm actually going to start saying, a lot of these movies have been on 4K. I'm going to start saying that they're on 4K, because 4K, it's the highest resolution you can get on physical media right now, and it looks great. But Gremlins, this is one of my favorite horror movies, as well as one of my favorite Christmas movies. Like, horror Christmas movies, I just kind of have a soft spot for those. We're going to be talking about Krampus fairly soon, I think. Yeah, fairly soon. Yeah, really, really fun movie. Hacksaw Ridge, one of my favorite war films of all time. Andrew Garfield is amazing in it, and it's not one of those films that is trying to force a particular belief system on you. It's simply portraying someone who had that belief system and the struggles they went through because of it. Really good at building sympathy there. So even if your beliefs are different from the main character, like mine are, you can still sympathize with him, and it still is really powerful. There are scenes in this movie where Desmond Doss, and it is based on a true story, there are scenes in this movie where he makes some decisions that the real Desmond Doss actually made, it wasn't exaggerated, that are just so powerful to me. The fact that he, like a human being, would do that to save people. Really inspiring film. Hannah, a really overlooked and underrated action thriller hybrid type thing. This is a weird movie, but I really, really dig it. And it also has Saoirse Ronan in one of her earliest roles. And the complete series of Harry Potter films. I love Harry Potter. I'm a complete Harry Potter nerd. I know a lot about Harry Potter. If you're wondering, I am a Slytherin. With some characteristics of a Gryffindor, so make of that what you will. I am a huge fan of Harry Potter, though, and I don't think that they could have casted these movies better. The casting in these movies is just perfect. And the Hunger Games films. There was a Mockingjay pendant in here. It's not here anymore. It's over there. Maybe it's back there. I don't know. I really like all these movies, but then again, I am the target demographic for them. I think that the first two are the best, and the last two are definitely the weakest of the quadrilogy. But I still really like the last two films, Mockingjay Part 1 and 2. I think that they are severely underrated. I think if people just looked a little deeper, you know, they would find that this isn't just your typical YA crap that's just meant to get a bunch of teenagers in the theater and make a bunch of money. These films actually had something to say, and I find them pretty powerful. And we have Insidious, directed by the masterful horror director James Wan, who also made the original Saw. Now, I know Saw has a torture porn thing that a lot of people really don't like. The original Saw, there's barely an ounce of blood in that movie. I mean, there's a lot of blood in certain... Never mind, I shouldn't say that. There's blood in that movie, but it's not gratuitous and it's not gory in the way that the sequels were. The original Saw is very psychological, but we're not talking about Saw. We're talking about Insidious. This movie has imagery that is going to haunt me for the rest of my life. Imagery that I see every night before I go to bed. I'm just sitting there and I'm like... I think of that one shot in this movie, you know the shot I'm talking about, gives me chills. Such a good horror film. And we have the 2020 version of The Invisible Man. I really, really like this movie. Elizabeth Moss gave a great performance, and it's directed by Leigh Whannell, who is friends with James Wan, who I was just talking about. They worked together on Insidious. Leigh Whannell was in Insidious, and he was also one of the main stars of Saw. He played Adam in the original Saw. It's funny how all of this kind of relates right now. Really, really enjoyed this movie. It's not so focused on giving you a release. It's just about building the tension and never letting you off the hook, and I really, really dug that. I know, I said that I was going to start saying when these are on 4K, and I haven't been doing it. I'll do it from now on, I promise. Now we have Jaws, directed by Steven Spielberg. Everyone knows Jaws. I'm not even going to say any more about this movie because you know everything you need to know. It's an incredible film. And we have Jeepers Creepers. Yes, I know the director Victor Salva did some horrible things, and I hate him for that. But pushing that aside, I actually think this is a really, really good horror film. Not a great horror film, I just think it's really good, and I like the way it's directed, and I think that Justin Long is a great actor. I want to see him in more things. And we have John Wick, the first John Wick film. Such a great action film, and Keanu Reeves really, really sells it. Also a very emotionally powerful action film. I apologize if there's a slight angle change there. My camera died and I had to switch out the battery. Let's continue with John Wick Chapter 2 on 4K. Obviously, the next two films in this trilogy, John Wick 2 and John Wick 3, are not as emotionally powerful as the first John Wick film, because that film was a very focused revenge plot. But John Wick Chapter 2 is still a ton of fun. Keanu Reeves really sells the stunts and the action, because he himself is doing the good majority of it. And obviously, you know, cinematography, set pieces, I mean, it's John Wick. It's all amazingly well done. The filmmaking in these movies is top tier for action filmmaking. And we have the final one, John Wick Chapter 3, Parabellum, on 4K. Not the final one. Obviously, I shouldn't have worded it that way. John Wick Chapter 4 is coming out next summer, I think. Right around when Matrix 4 is also coming out. Two films also starring Keanu Reeves. I think this film has the best action in the John Wick trilogy. I don't think it's the best film in the John Wick trilogy, but in regards to the action and the way the action is filmed, I think this has the best action. And also, Halle Berry is very underrated in that movie. Jojo Rabbit, directed by I can't say his name fast. Taika Waititi, who also directed Thor Ragnarok, which is one of my favorite Marvel films. Jojo Rabbit is a hilarious film. This is one of my favorite comedies, and Roman Griffin Davis, Scarlett Johansson are incredible in this movie. And who's Thomasin McKenzie, that's her name. Thomasin McKenzie, Roman Griffin Davis, and Scarlett Johansson are all amazing in this film. Great, great film. And also, this film, every single time, the third act shift, you know exactly what I'm talking about, gets me every time. I bawl my eyes out every single time. Now we have Joker. Now the quote on the back says a masterpiece, and I did do an analysis video on it, and when it came out, I was all over this movie. I was like, Joker is a masterpiece. This film is one of the best films ever made. Upon subsequent rewatches, I've stepped back and I've analyzed, you know, the similarities it has to certain Scorsese films, and it really did take a lot. I still think this is a really good movie, and Phoenix gives an incredible performance, and I love that I own it, and I will definitely rewatch this film many times in the future. I just don't think it's a masterpiece, like I did the first time I saw it. And we have the Jurassic Park collection, including Jurassic Park 1, Jurassic Park 2, and Jurassic Park 3. The original Jurassic Park is incredible, and I actually think that The Lost World is a great Jurassic Park film. I know a lot of people don't, but I think that movie is criminally underrated. And then Jurassic Park 3 is not a good movie, but I suppose as a standalone 90-minute jungle island thriller, it kind of works. Yeah, I don't know. First two I love. And now we have Jurassic World, which is a lot better than Jurassic Park 3, but by no means is as good as the original two Jurassic Park films. But I still find this film to be a fun dinosaur thriller. You know, obviously when compared to the quality of the original Jurassic Park, this is trash. But I don't want to, do that. I don't know, because I watched this movie and it was just really entertaining. It was aggressively entertaining, and I really, really liked it. I don't know. I like it. I like it. Not in the same way that I like the original Jurassic Park, but I like it. Just Mercy. This is one of my favorite legal dramas of all time. Michael B. Jordan gives a great performance. Everyone does. Jamie Foxx and Brie Larson, and whoever played Herbert Lee Richardson in this movie. That's my favorite performance in the film, actually. And also whoever played Darnell Houston. He's also been in some other stuff, and I've seen him in some other stuff, but his name always slips in my mind. But seriously, all the performances in this movie are great, and it is one of my favorite legal dramas. And we have Krampus. I said that we were going to be talking about this when I was talking about Gremlins. This is also one of my favorite Christmas-themed horror films. Then again, there aren't like an insane amount of Christmas-themed horror. I really like Christmas-themed horror. I don't know. Like, I like Christmas movies that aren't Christmas movies. You know what I mean? Like, Die Hard, it's not a Christmas movie, but it is a Christmas action movie. But I do consider Die Hard to be a Christmas movie. I mean, come on. The guy who wrote it, the guy who directed it, they all say it's a Christmas movie. It's a Christmas movie. Krampus. Really, really fun Christmas-themed horror film, and it was directed by the same guy who did Trick or Treat, which is also a very fun and underrated horror film. Alright, let me make sure I'm correct alphabetically. L, yes, we're going into L. La La Land, directed by Damien Chazelle. I talked about First Man earlier. This is the other film directed by Damien Chazelle. This film, I think, suffered from being so hyped, and the Oscars were all over it. It tied with Titanic as the movie with the most nominations, and you build up these godly expectations for it, and then you watch it, and I think that that's why a lot of people like to hate on it now, but taken out of historical context, this is an incredible film. I have a really cool, like, fabric scroll-down wall art poster for it right here. I wish I could show it to you, but I don't want to mess up the angle anymore. Really, really fantastic film. I think it's a masterpiece, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. And Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone are amazing. And great chemistry. Alright, now we have Love, Simon. Such a sweet and heartfelt film. And I have heard some people complain about this movie being unrealistic in regards to what LGBTQ plus teens actually go through in real life. However, it depends on, like, where you are. You know, in this movie, they live next to a big city, and, you know, his friends are very progressive people, and I think that's why that when he does eventually, like, I don't want to spoil anything, but when people figure out certain things, it is kind of jarring. Like, why are they being so accepting right now? That's not realistic. There are certain parts of this movie that feel very, you know, Hollywood, but I don't think it's as unrealistic as people make it out to be. And even taken out of that context, I think it's just a really fun and entertaining movie and a really good representation. I personally very much appreciate how this movie portrays Simon as a character. Because, you know, I myself have gone through, you know, similar things, almost the exact struggle that he's going through for the first 2 acts of this film, and so this film really does mean a lot to me. Next up, we have Love and Monsters. No one is talking about this movie. It has Dylan O'Brien in it, and it was so much fun. On 4K. Love, Simon on 4K too. Was there another 4K that I missed? I don't know. Jojo Rabbit was on 4K. Anyway, really, really fun movie, and really touching. In fact, I rewatched this movie not too long ago, and when it was at the ending, and you hear Dylan O'Brien's narration and all the people, you know, coming out of their shelters and everything, I cried. I don't know, it's just a really sweet, heartfelt adventure movie. Love and Monsters, perfectly titled. You're gonna get that. Really heartfelt love story and epic monster fights. Really, really good movie. More people should talk about it. And continuing with the Dylan O'Brien fare, we have the first Maze Runner film. I feel similarly about these films that I do about the Hunger Games films, and honestly Divergent as well, which I don't own. I think that these films exceed what you normally expect from, you know, the book-to-movie YA adaptations. It's not just soapy melodrama. This film feels very grounded, and it's very thrilling. Yeah, the third act is a little shaky, but come on, guys, you knew there was going to be a second movie anyway, so don't let the exposition bother you. I don't know. I really like the first Maze Runner film. I like all of them because, yeah, the second one, Maze Runner: The Scorch Trials, also very fun, very good performances from Dylan O'Brien, Kai Scodelario, Thomas Brody Sangster, and Ki Hong Lee. Everyone is very good in these movies, and I think the action is so good, and I think these movies are so good. And just in case you're wondering, yes, I've also read the Maze Runner books. I've even read the 2 prequel books to the Maze Runner series, which have not been made into movies yet. I'm kind of hoping they will be, because the backstory is very interesting. And the third one, Maze Runner: The Death Cure. Yes, this is a Blu Ray. I know under the slipcover you can't quite see. It does say Blu Ray right there. This is my favorite film in the trilogy, and it's weird, because it was the most poorly received film in the trilogy as well. So, I don't know. I just think the action in this film is so good, and I think it's the most emotionally resonant. And like I said, the performances are great. Let me just make sure this camera is still recording, because I'm getting paranoid after my battery died. Yes, it's still recording. Wonderful. Okay, let's continue, because this video is getting long enough as it is. We have Mission Impossible 1 through 5. These are the Blu-rays of the first 5 Mission Impossible films in one collection. Really cool. I love this artwork. I love all of the Mission Impossible movies except for Mission Impossible 2. Mission Impossible, Mission Impossible 3, Mission Impossible 4, Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and we're about to talk about Mission Impossible Fallout. I love all of them. It's one of the best action franchises ever, in my opinion, and Tom Cruise really sells that physicality. And yes, Mission Impossible Fallout, the sixth one. This is my favorite Mission Impossible film as of right now. Very excited for Mission Impossible 7. Apparently, it has to do with space. Like, there's gonna be some stuff in space. Don't quote me on that. Tom Cruise, you've done it all, man. If you're about to go to space, you gonna go to space? You're a psychopath. I mean, you were already kind of a psychopath anyway. Really good action movie. And we have the remake of Murder on the Orient Express. Not the best movie, but I really enjoyed it. And I think that they executed the famous twist with this story. You know, original book by Agatha Christie, the classic film from the 70s. I think they executed the, big twist that everyone knows about this story very well. Next up, we have News of the World on 4K. This is a Western starring Tom Hanks, and by reading the descriptions of it, it's kind of sounded like a Western version of The Last of Us. Like him escorting this little girl across the country and, encountering dangers, except, in this film it's not the zombie apocalypse like it was in The Last of Us, but it's similar vibe, I suppose, just from reading the description. I was very excited for this movie, got really good reviews, so I saw the 4K, and I bought it, which I normally don't do. I normally don't buy a physical copy of a movie that I haven't seen, just in case I end up not liking it. I'm gonna be honest, for the amount of excitement I had for this film, it disappointed me. I actually thought this film was really disappointing because of how excited I was from it. I thought it was incredibly shot, and Tom Hanks gave a really good performance, but I don't know. I think it just could have been a lot better. I might review it, but just in case I don't, I'm gonna say I'd probably give this a C+, B-, right around there. It's okay, and maybe on subsequent rewatches, I might end up loving it. But as of right now, it was disappointing. Next up, we have Nightcrawler, which stars my main man, Jake Gyllenhaal, and Riz Ahmed, too. Very underrated actor. Watch Sound of Metal. He's amazing in that. Really, really great crime thriller here, and, it's just so good. And Dan Gilroy's direction is so just propulsive, and it constantly keeps you sucked in. And Jake Gyllenhaal's performance... I'm constantly saying this. Jake Gyllenhaal, ever since Enemy, man... That guy is an amazing actor, and he's just constantly not in the club for the Academy. But I've given up on the Oscars, to be completely honest with you. Jake Gyllenhaal absolutely deserved an Oscar for this film. He didn't get it, but it is what it is. And we have the best war film of the past few years, 1917, a war film simulated to look like one take, which makes it very immersive, and I encourage you, if you haven't seen it yet, definitely do watch it. Very, very immersive war film, very thrilling, and surprisingly emotionally powerful in some scenes. And we have Non-Stop. This was directed by Jaume Collet-Serra, or maybe it's Jaume Collet-Serra. I think it's Jaume Collet-Serra. It's a Hispanic name. He is a very underrated director, and this is a really underrated movie. It stars Liam Neeson, and it's just, I love it. It's not a perfect film by any means. It's not a perfect film by a long shot. It has problems, don't get me wrong. But I just think that as a closed-contained thriller on an airplane, taking place entirely on that one airplane, the claustrophobic feel and what it feels like to actually take a flight, I think it was nailed perfectly in this movie. I think they nailed it, and Liam Neeson, great performance. Julianne Moore, good performance, and a really intriguing plot. I don't know. I really like it. And I love the finale of this movie. I love what the pilot says when he actually decides to descend that fast. So awesome. Can't say it because, demonetization, but whatever. And, parents and... yeah, anyway, 127 hours. This is my favorite true story survival film. It is so powerful, the true story of Aaron Ralston, and the ending of this movie is so inspiring. The music and the cinematography and James Franco's performance is just... I very, very much enjoy this film. Gives me goosebumps every single time. The Others, one of, if not my favorite haunted house movie of all time. Nicole Kidman is amazing in it, and I love the twist in this movie. It's honestly so beautifully tragic, and I just love, you guys know I love that stuff. I really just ate that up. so good, such a well executed twist, but the movie entirely is, it's not boring, it never gets slow, very well made, and very, very creepy. Next up, we have Parasite. Yes, Parasite. This is one of those movies that it was being so hyped up. It got so much recognition at the Oscars. It won Best Picture. It was the first foreign film to ever win Best Picture. Made history. People were hyping it up as one of the greatest films of all time. Perhaps the greatest foreign film ever made. And everyone was like, one of the greatest movies of all time. This is one of those movies that is not overhyped. All that stuff I just said, I watched it, completely get it, and I completely agree. This is one of the greatest films of all time. Nothing beats Parasite. It is so good. Bong Joon-ho is such a great director. He directed Snowpiercer, which was also great. Okja, Memories of Murder, The Host. He's directed tons of great movies, but I would say that Parasite is my favorite. And watch it if you haven't. Next up, we have The Perks of Being a Wallflower, the most accurate portrayal of high schoolers that I have ever seen. Every single experience that Charlie goes through in this movie, I have gone through in some way, shape, or form. I'm just gonna put it that way. Such a good movie, so touching, and just so realistically made, and it just feels so authentic, and it's heartwarming, at the same time heartbreaking, and the ending, like, this movie just reaches that spot in my mind that I have such a hard time expressing, and I still can't express it, not because I'm afraid, just because I literally don't know how to describe it. That emotion, my close friends know what I'm talking about. I've told them about this emotion that I feel when I go into deep states of like recollection and just ruminate over certain memories. This film hits the nail on the head in that regard. Such an important film to me. I love this movie. So many movies. Next up, we have The Princess Bride. Classic comedy adventure film, romance. Carrie Elways is great as the Dread Pirate Roberts. Just such a fun movie. Like, it's just fun. Like, in regards to pure entertainment, this is, like, top tier. It's amazing. And we have A Quiet Place. Yes, I have not seen A Quiet Place Part 2 yet, or maybe by the time I upload this video I have, who knows. I love this movie. I know a lot of people feel that it was overhyped and that it's overrated. Maybe it was a little bit overhyped, but I don't think it's overrated in the least. I think that it's a really, really darn good horror film, very suspenseful, and an extremely emotionally resonant climax. Very, very good horror film. On 4K. I keep on saying I'm gonna say whenever it's on 4K. It's on 4K. And we have Rio. Really fun animated movie from the people who gave us Ice Age. I think this movie's really funny, and yeah, I don't know. It's just a really fun movie. I don't know, there's not much else to say. Really good animated film. And we have Saving Private Ryan. I want to thank my grandmother for getting me this Blu Ray. I believe it was for my birthday. Might have been for Christmas, though. I believe it was for my birthday, though. Very, very good Spielberg film. And the violence in this movie is so authentic and so realistic. It is so disturbing. Great war film. Very long, but it's constantly intriguing. The Shallows, which is the absolute best shark film since Jaws, and I think this movie is very emotionally powerful in the third act. No spoilers, obviously, but when Nancy is on that buoy and she just makes that decision that she is not going to take a single ounce more of crap from this shark. She is going to fight back with everything in her. So inspiring. Very, very good movie. Beautifully shot. Also directed by Wame Colette Sarah, who I was talking about earlier, who directed Nonstop. Alright. Shark Week. This is not a movie. This is just the 20th anniversary collection of the show. I love sharks, obviously. I think they're severely misunderstood creatures, and I think they're beautiful creatures, and yeah, so I love Shark Week, obviously. And I think Shark Week is airing July this year. I'm gonna have to watch it. Next up on 4K, we have The Shining, Stanley Kubrick's classic horror film. Jack Nicholson, amazing performance. Shelley Duvall, amazing performance. Can you believe that she was nominated for a Razzie Award? What the heck? Her performance is incredible in this movie. She was in a constant state of misery on set because of Stanley Kubrick and the way he treated her, which, you know, form whatever opinion of that you will, but the movie, as an individual film, it's a classic. It's a great horror film. Terrifying. Terrifying movie. Ugh, just thinking about it right now. And we had the highly anticipated sequel, Doctor Sleep, directed by Mike Flanagan, who is one of my favorite horror directors working today. He also did Gerald's Game, Hush, Haunting of Hill House, Oculus. He's a great, great horror director. And yes, I have seen this, and, you know, I really loved this movie. I thought, as a sequel to The Shining, it's incredible. Like, because that's a very daunting task to make a sequel to The Shining. But Mike Flanagan pulled it off. And I think that Ewan McGregor and Rebecca Ferguson in particular are so, so good in this movie. I keep on forgetting the young actress's name. What is her name? What is her name? I must find it. She is so good. Kylie Curran. Very, very good in this film. And a lot of people said that this film just wasn't scary enough. Man, do I wholeheartedly disagree. I think it depends on what you find scary, and I found this film terrifying. And now we have Short Term 12, directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, who also directed Just Mercy. Such an authentic and realistic movie. It actually, like, this movie is authentic to teens who deal with suicide and depression, and, you know, suicidal thoughts and self-harm, and you know, I've dealt with all those things, and the way that it portrays it is just so authentic and heartfelt, and it reminds me of how The Perks of Being a Wallflower portrayed high school life and growing up and the emotions that come with that. Such a good movie. Next up, we have M. Night Shyamalan's Unbreakable trilogy. Now, when it comes to quality, like when it comes to actual, like, you know, film analysis, is this a quality film? Unbreakable is the best film in the trilogy, but in regards to my personal favorite film in the trilogy, not best, but my personal favorite, Split is actually my personal favorite film in the trilogy, and I know a lot of people actually do agree with that. Split is a god-tier Shyamalan film. Unbreakable is a masterpiece to me, and Glass was enjoyable. Like, disappointing, definitely, but it was enjoyable at the very least. I just wish Shyamalan didn't feel the need to throw in a twist in every single one of his movies, you know? And the way he wrapped up David Dunn's arc in Glass was very disappointing. But overall, I love that a trilogy like this exists. It is so beautifully unique, and it was made over such a long period of time. Really happy that I have it. Next up, we have another Denis Villeneuve film, Sicario. Denis Villeneuve directed Arrival, which I talked about earlier. This film is brutal, but it's weird because I had heard from people that it was, like, brutal, and it is a dark, very disturbing movie. And yeah, it's a dark movie, but everyone that I talked to was like, this film is unforgivingly, relentlessly dark, brutal, and just brutal. Like, that word is thrown around so much when people talk about this movie. And then I watched it, and yeah, there's some dark stuff, but it's not like that brutal or dark. Like, there wasn't ever a moment in this movie where I was like, oh god. There's one moment with Benicio del Toro's character in regard when he's sitting at the dinner table with that family and their kids. You know exactly what I'm talking about. That is the one scene in the movie where I was like, oh my god, like that, like they really went there. Such a great crime thriller, though, and just so great. Benicio del Toro and Emily Blunt are incredible in this film. I haven't seen Sicario: Day of the Soldado yet. I do have to check it out. I think it's on Hulu. And we have Signs, another M. Night Shyamalan movie. Very, very, very suspenseful movie. I love the way it's directed, and I love the way it wraps up. Again, one of those movies that doesn't force a belief system on you. It just shows the beauty of how it is with this particular family, and I think it's just so beautifully executed and such a suspenseful film. There's a scene where Mel Gibson is investigating his crop field at night with the flashlight. No jump scares whatsoever. If you've seen Signs, you know what I'm talking about. But that scene makes you jump even though there isn't a jump scare. Only people who have seen it will understand. Very, very good Shyamalan film. And we have The Silence of the Lambs, one of the most disturbing movies I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins, iconic performance. Jodie Foster, iconic performance. And then you have Ted Levine as Buffalo Bill. Iconic performance, obviously. I put the lotion in the basket. I put the lotion in the basket. I put the lotion in the basket. I had to omit a word from that line. Such a great performance, but such a disturbing character. Oh my god. And to think people like this exist in our real world. There are people like Buffalo Bill who exist, who are out there probably right now. My door's locked, right? Next up, we have David Fincher's The Social Network. David Fincher is competition with just one or two other directors as my favorite director of all time. The Social Network might be my favorite David Fincher movie. I don't know yet, but it's very, very close. This film is incredible, and it was written by Aaron Sorkin, and his dialogue is unmatched. There's no other screenwriter who has written dialogue as good as this guy. And also, check out the movie Steve Jobs. Aaron Sorkin also wrote that movie, and it also has incredible dialogue. And it's because of that dialogue that this film has such a great pace to it. Because even though it has a story that may not sound like it could carry a full 2-hour movie, it does, in large part due to that dialogue. Jesse Eisenberg's best performance in my opinion, though I do like him in the Zombieland movies. And then Andrew Garfield, incredible performance. My favorite scene in this movie is the scene where Andrew Garfield's character confronts Jesse Eisenberg's character, where Eduardo Saverin confronts Mark Zuckerberg. Oh my god, that is one of the most satisfying scenes of all time. Speed, one of the best 90s action movies, just a straight up fun popcorn action thrill ride. Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, what more do you really want? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse on 4K. This movie looks incredible on 4K, and I'm gonna say this. Everyone is so caught up in the argument of who is the best live action Spider-Man. Is it Tobey Maguire? Is it Andrew Garfield? Is it Tom Holland? But no one talks about what is the best Spider-Man film. What film portrayed the morals and the message behind the Spider-Man character the best? Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my favorite Spider-Man film of all time. Animated or live action, it doesn't matter to me. As far as Spider-Man movies go, this is my favorite. I find this film so inspiring, and it was the first one to have an actual Spider-Man. Like, the Peter Parker character in this movie, he's all grown up. He's like in his late 30s, early 40s. He's gone through divorces, he's buried loved ones, like he's gone through adult stuff. He's dealing with financial things. Like, he's a Spider-Man, you know? He's not in high school. But of course, you know, the main character, Miles Morales, is in high school and he becomes his version of Spider-Man. I adore the execution of Miles Morales' arc in this movie, and just the movie is just constantly inspiring, and you all know the scene where What's Up Danger is playing, where Miles is fully mastering his powers and accepting who he is and just swinging around the city, and it's just one of the most inspiring scenes I've ever seen in my life. It almost brings a tear to my eye every time. This film is one of my favorite animated movies of all time. In fact, I would say this is competition with just one other movie is my favorite animated movie of all time. And we'll be talking about that other animated movie later in this video. It's the last Blu Ray in my collection, actually. Starts with a Z, so obviously, because it's alphabetical, you can probably already guess what it is. Spider-Verse is an incredible film. Next up, we have Spirited Away. This is actually the only Studio Ghibli film that I own. It was directed by Hayao Miyazaki, who is one of the best filmmakers of all time, not just in animation, across the board. He is such a good director, and Spirited Away is an incredible film from him. One of the best anime movies I've ever seen. Might be the best, I don't know. There's some anime movies that I still need to see the new Demon Slayer movie. Dude, I'm so excited. Man, I still need to see that. Next up, we have Stranger Things. This is 4K, but since this is season 1 of Stranger Things on 4K, but since it's a very 80s show, they decided to put it in VHS packaging, which is really, really cool. But yeah, the 4K discs are in there. I love Stranger Things. Season 1 is so good. Season 2 is so good. Season 3, the show is just so good. And come on, release Season 4 already, Netflix, because I need to catch up on my reviews of this show. Next up, we have Super 8, a modern classic in my mind. J.J. Abrams, Steven Spielberg working together, which is just a dream Man, I love this movie, and I strongly relate to it, but it's also just extremely entertaining, and I think that there's something in here for everyone. I really encourage you to check it out if you haven't watched it. Tenet, the most recent film from Christopher Nolan on 4K, starring John David Washington. A lot of people didn't really know what to think about this movie. I really loved this movie. I have a review for it on my channel, plug. Go check that out after this video, of course. Very, very good action movie. Yeah, the sound mix is kind of really overpowering the dialogue. The score really takes over, but it's a fantastic score. I don't know. I really love this movie, and I can't wait to see what it looks like on 4K. 10 Cloverfield Lane on 4K. We talked about Cloverfield earlier. This is like the sequel to Cloverfield, but it's not even related, really. John Goodman and Mary Elizabeth Winstead are so good in this movie that it makes up for some of the things that people often complain about. For example, the final 10 minutes. I really like the way it wrapped up, but I can see why so many people really hate that ending. Such a suspenseful film directed by Dan Trachtenberg. This was his directorial debut, and apparently he's going to be doing a Predator movie. So yeah, with the suspense in this movie, I'm excited to see what he could do with a Predator film. That's going to be great. Next up, Titanic. Let me explain something about Titanic and my experience with Titanic. This is one of those films that, you know, like many others, a lot of people feel was very overhyped, and it's very popular to go back and make fun of it now and call it trash and call it bad. I'm being honest with you. I still think this movie is incredible. I think it's freaking amazing. I think that the performances are so good. Yeah, you know, it's cheesy, but, like, it's a romance with Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet on the Titanic, first love, like, and it's just so charming. With these actors, I can forgive the cheese, because the chemistry is just so there, and it's just such a charming film. Beautifully shot, and very tragic movie, obviously. Just in case you haven't seen Titanic, like the one person out there, just in case you're watching this video and you haven't seen Titanic, I'm not going to spoil anything. Makes me cry every time. I think that this is an incredible film. Even though it's popular to hate on it now, I still think it holds up. Next up, we have a steelbook of To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a Blu Ray, it's just in that steelbook format. Very, very good legal drama. Although parts of it may not be very... Apologies once again for that angle change. My camera battery died yet again. I'm powering through it. I'm going to get through this video. I've been filming for hours at this point. As I was saying, certain parts of this movie aren't necessarily politically correct by today's standards, but I don't really like to criticize a movie for that unless it's, like, really apparent. And looking at, this film came out in 1962, and the story it told and the issues that it dealt with, really ballsy of them to make this movie in 1962, and yes, I also have read the book. Incredible book, incredible movie. Next up, we have Tomb Raider, starring Alicia Vikander, who was also in Ex Machina, which I talked about way earlier in the video. If you're still watching, thank you. I thought this is the best Tomb Raider movie by far, though there isn't really that much competition. The Angelina Jolie ones are just huge guilty pleasures. Terrible movies, but they are so much fun. I actually think this is a really good film. Like, I really do think it's a genuinely good film. I don't know. Looking at it as a Tomb Raider adaptation and as just an action movie that's meant to give you some thrills and a great performance from Alicia Vikander, who, by the way, nails it. She is the definitive live-action Lara Croft, in my opinion. Watch people be like after, like, maybe in the future when they cast another actress as Lara Croft in a live-action movie, watch people do the same thing that they do with the live-action Spider-Mans. Like, to be like, who was the best live-action Lara Croft? Angelina Jolie, Alicia Vikander, or, you know, the other person who they might cast as Lara Croft. Really, really good action movie. I really, really like it. Next up, we have 12 Angry Men. This may very well be my favorite black and white film, right up there with Psycho. It's always between those two. This movie, I was talking about Aaron Sorkin earlier and his dialogue and how it is just so well done in The Social Network. This feels like it was written by Aaron Sorkin, but it's not. I mean, this came out in the 50s. However, and they did remake this movie, but it was like a TV movie. If they ever do a legit theatrical remake of 12 Angry Men, please get Aaron Sorkin to write it. That would just be perfect. Man, that would just be perfect. Such an incredible film. It may very well be my favorite black and white movie. Alright, we're in the last stack here. Look, We only have these movies left. Let's do it. Let's get through it. We can do it. Twister, classic disaster film. The arguing between Bill Paxton and, why am I forgetting her name? Helen Hunt. The arguing between Bill Paxton and Helen Hunt, a lot of people find it very annoying. I actually think it's pretty funny. I love the road where... not the road. I love the scene where they're driving and they're arguing, and Bill Paxton is, like, just saying stuff, and he's not even paying attention to the road, and then Joe, Helen Hunt, her character's name is Joe. Joe is just like, okay, there's a whole road thing, you know? And then eventually he's like, would you like to drive? Would you like to drive? And she's like, yes, I'd love to. Like, I don't know, it's just funny to me. Like, I love the banter. And for a film in the 90s, they did the tornado CGI pretty well. It's very obviously CGI, but I think it was well done for the most part, and I really like the ending of this movie too. I actually think that's kind of an underrated film, to be completely honest. Next up, we have V for Vendetta on 4K. I have been saying these 4Ks, right? I don't know why I feel the need to do that. V for Vendetta on 4K. Incredible film. I also have the graphic novel. Where is it? It's up there. It's in my background. I know my background is blurred out, but I have it over there. Also an incredible graphic novel and an incredible film. Natalie Portman, Hugo Weaving. Incredible performances. This film is just so... Like, the climax and the finale of this movie is just... Oh my god. Like, it's surprising how relevant this movie is to today. Like, seriously, watch this movie, compare it to our current times. Shockingly relevant. Incredible film. Season 1 of The Walking Dead. Yes, I don't know if I've clarified this on my channel before. I do watch The Walking Dead. I'm a big fan of The Walking Dead. I'm currently watching Season 10, and Season 11 was announced that it is going to be the final season of The Walking Dead. The first season of The Walking Dead is one of the best seasons of television ever. It's just perfectly executed zombie apocalypse drama. Really gritty action and violence, and man, just thinking about it, like, it makes me want to watch it now. Like, the first season of the show is so good, man. And I also own the second season on Blu Ray as well. Not as good as the first season. It's twice as long, which I think, you know, and they don't really have many locations for it, which I think was a big missed opportunity. But it's still a great season of The Walking Dead, especially when compared to some of the other not-so-great seasons of The Walking Dead. This is Season 8. What? I didn't say anything. I still really enjoy Season 2, and it's one of those things where I love these characters so much that even when the show isn't really that great, I'm still going to watch it just because I care about the people so much. Next up, we have War of the Worlds, the Steven Spielberg, Tom Cruise version on 4K. Looks great on 4K, too. I just watched it recently. I actually think this is a really underrated Spielberg film. Obviously, yeah, that was the second time I messed up Spielberg's name by saying Spielberg. Spielberg. Yes, this is kind of a mid-Spielberg movie in most people's eyes, but for me, I actually think this is a really good movie. Like, I think it's a really good Spielberg film. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, obviously when compared to the classics that he's made, like Jaws and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic Park, obviously this is by no means up to the quality of those films, but I still think it's a really, really fun and exhilarating movie. Next up, we have another Damien Chazelle film, Whiplash, on 4K. I have a review of this film on my channel. I've had reviews for a lot of these movies on my channel. I didn't plug all of them, but plug for the Whiplash review, it's up there. Also directed by Damien Chazelle, as I said, who also did First Man and La La Land, which I also own. This movie is crushing, and it is so, so good. Such a satisfying finale, and emotionally, this movie is just unforgivingly relentless and emotionally dark. Just, man, it is so good. I don't even want to tell you any more about it. If you haven't seen Whiplash, just watch it. Don't even read what it's about. Just watch it completely blind, not knowing anything. I think that is by far the best way to watch this movie. Next up, we have Wonder Woman from 2017. This is a fantastic film in my mind. The third act does get a little shaky, but I think Gal Gadot was a great casting choice for Wonder Woman. And yeah, I just think it's a really, really great comic book movie, and especially a great DC film, especially when compared to other DC movies. And we have its recent sequel, Wonder Woman 1984, on 4K. Review plug. I have a very unpopular opinion on this movie. I loved it. I gave it a B+, which, normally a movie that I give a B+, I think is just really good. I loved this movie, but I could not, just omit the flaws that I saw in it, so I did give it a B+, but to be fair, I haven't rewatched it since. So maybe that says a little something about rewatchability, but I found a lot to love in this film, and I just think, people were so dead set on just criticizing this movie because the original was so good, and then people going into this were just like, there's no way a sequel's gonna be good. I don't know. I watched this movie with an open mind, and I ended up really enjoying it. And we have World War Z. I am a fan of apocalypse stuff. Another movie that people say is really bad, and I just don't get it. I just think, like it's not a great film. I just think it's a really good zombie thriller apocalypse movie. And I think Brad Pitt is very good in the film, and I love the third act. Like, if the first two acts are a really good movie, I think the third act is actually a great movie. With all of them in the hospital and, the classic zombie stuff that we love, baseball bats and axes, and man, that is such a great third act. I don't know, underrated movie in my opinion. Yeah. Like I said, no such thing as good or bad taste. People just like what they like, and they should be allowed to like what they like. And we have Zombieland on 4K. Such a fun horror comedy, though this is definitely more of a comedy than a horror movie. Really nice spin on the zombie apocalypse genre. Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, Emma Stone, and Abigail Breslin. All great performances. It's just such a funny movie. Tallahassee. I want my Twinkie. Like, I don't... There's just something... Tallahassee is so funny. Man, I really love this movie. And next up, like I said, the last film in this collection starts with a Z because it is in alphabetical order. I mentioned that it is the film that is competition with Into the Spider-Verse as my favorite animated film of all time. And that film is, you've already guessed it, Zootopia. I know! We have The Lion King, and we have Beauty and the Beast, and we have all these classic animated movies, but in regards to relatability and animated movies that hit very close to home for me, in regards to the subject matter and the underlying themes, Zootopia really hits that for me, and this is the collector's edition, but it's the Blu Ray, it's under there. I just think this is just such an incredible film from Disney, one of probably the best Disney movie in the past. I haven't seen Raya and the Last Dragon yet, so take this with a grain of salt. Best Disney movie past 7-8 years, maybe? I don't know. Coco was a collaboration between Pixar and Disney, so, make of that what you will. But in regards to, like, a full Disney movie, my favorite in the past 7 or 8 years, probably. And competition with Spider-Verse as my favorite animated film. And there we go. That's all of my Blu-rays. We did it. Holy crap, I'm looking at my laptop right now, which is showing me how long I've been recording. Wow. This might end up being my longest video to date. I can't imagine how long the video for my 3-year anniversary is going to be. Holy crap. There we go. That was all of my Blu-rays. That is my complete collection. If you are still watching this video, this was a beast. A Zay beast. Oh, that was cringy. Not really much else to say. That was my complete collection, so I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks so much for watching, guys. It really does mean a lot. I'll see you in the next video, and until then, keep writing, keep shooting, and keep editing.